It's gonna be interesting, boys. Welcome. This is the final third of the MidsWatches. If you guys don't know what the MidsWatches is, it's a reference to my midnight watches when I was back at the naval radio station on the West Coast. I don't know. It's just it's one of those days. I'm kind of tired anyway, and these are going to be up for a little bit, and then it's going to go exclusive to the Patreon later. I eventually chop them up, record them for MidsWatch episodes you guys watch. It's an interesting set. So where are we at here? 46. I don't know. Some of the topics got kind of light, and then some got kind of meta, and then some got rather heavy. So for example, you're going to have like values a two-way street, which is the idea that some guys just are trash, and about the epiphany phase hitting the wall, but it's like a proper way to understand it, like the red-pilled way, not the nonsense you hear online. What's the next one? Oh yeah. If I was a CEO, I'd have fired her ass. That one's going to be kind of a neat one too. It's basically about useless chicks, and then shit tests versus shitty comfort tests. The idea of a weak frame, and then Alpha as Wolf and his rage quit event. I've referenced it a bunch, but it'll be kind of nice to see it. Now the problem is, some of these ones are really, really long. And I don't know why I picked Patreon Day to do this, but whatever. Jesus Christ, I'm looking at this now. I'm like, it's like 10,000 words, man. I'm gonna go so thin at the end of this. I have no idea. How much red pill is too much? Basic shit test stuff. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyways, I'm going to, let's pop out chat. This here. Hey, how's up, Godspeed? Guillermo, it's good to see you. Simon, it's good to see you. Michael, Zach, thoughtfully savage. Well, at least you're thoughtful about it. Fly Harvey. I've watched every mid-watch, so I'm kind of giddy to see you do it live. Yeah, it's neat. It's a lot. There's always one guy in the comments like, didn't I already see this one before? It's like, yeah, I told you flat out that we're recording it live, and I'm just like, why don't I just do it as a live stream? Generally speaking, I ignore you guys while I'm doing the recordings, but then in between we kind of banter between us. So let me go here. Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah, the only other thing is there's like an image on this one. It's like, do I add it? How do I edit that in there? I don't know. Anyways, fuck it. We'll do it live. That's the other thing too. I got to think of I like to try and think of like a way to introduce it within like 3 seconds in a way that's kind of engaging. I'm getting better at it. It's kind of a skill. Finally catch the coach live. Hey, it's good to see you, the Black. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoying your workday, by the way. So let me think on this one. Something about hitting the wall, the epiphany phase. Oh. I got it. All right, let's do it. Most wives initiate divorce not because they're abused, not because of drinking, not because of drugs, not because of infidelity, but just because they're bored. Hey, fellas, welcome, MidsWatch, Ryan. If you are new to the channel, we're on like episode 80 something on it, and the MidsWatch was, and I guess I don't give these history lessons enough. MidsWatch references the midnight watch that I used to have at the naval radio station on the West Coast. And ideally on then I would put on old like CBC Radio 3 broadcast. You sit there and listen to some ASMR voice talking about some pretentious hipster book. And I'm like, I really liked the vibe. And so we do those here. Anyways, this one is a nice story about a guy who's finding out how what is valuable in a relationship changes over time. And I think this one's important because a lot of guys are very devout, Christian, and they have, as Rollo would put it, a beta buck side of relationships. Like everything you do has to be adding value. You have to be the provider. You want to be loyal and calm and, work hard and that stuff. And then this is kind of a guy who figures out that there's a downside to that. And most of the cause of current relationship issues are because women have too much security, and so when they have all their needs met, they really don't need you anymore past certain milestones. But we'll get to there. So this one's by a guy, he calls himself Jan Cios, whatever. The wife told me it's over yesterday. She told me over 6 months ago that she's been trying to stay together for the kids. We have financial difficulties since I lost my job, but in the interim, I've been working a low-paying job and still looking for gainful employment. She can no longer handle the struggle. We have 2 kids, 15 and 13. She has been pulling away for over a year and made new girlfriends, who most are divorced. She never has had friends in this 15 years of marriage. This weekend, she went out for a drink without telling me with a recently divorced girlfriend, and I told her that this is not the way to act in a marriage. She left the kids at home by themselves without telling me where she went. I work nights. She's 9 to 5. She's been coming home late, some nights an hour or so late. The kids text me when she gets home. I follow her home to see if she's cheating and found nothing. Her phone has a lock and her Facebook password has been changed. I do suspect emotional cheating, but she told me she just doesn't want to come home from work right away. She has suffered from depression since she was 20 and hides it well. She told me she does not want to go for help personally or to a marriage counselor because she has made up her mind. She's informed me that the grass may not be greener on the other side, but she's willing to give it a shot. We still sleep in the same bed. She kisses me most mornings, and we have a dead bedroom now for about 6 months. I've lost 40 pounds in the last year since starting to lift and cleaned up my diet before finding the sub. I have also changed how I dress before reading the site. I notice now that other girls are looking at me, which has not happened before marriage. I told her I'm not going to move out. She told me she feels sorry for me because I don't make enough money to support myself. Yesterday, she was irritated when she dropped the bomb. She says, "How come I am not saying anything?" I just listened and smiled, amused mastery, something else. I have not communicated with her in about a day, and she's also told me that she's lost respect for me. So that's a bit of a bombshell. Now, there's going to be a bunch. We're going to talk about Jack 10 of Hearts. He's going to get into a really good breakdown from this, but I would just, a couple points of my own at the end here. But as we start, the one thing here that I'm surprised doesn't get talked about enough is that it's always with cheating. Every guy assumes girls are always cheating every time they leave the house and that. There's been a couple cases like this. One, the guy hired a private investigator to investigate this scenario. And what ended up happening? Turns out the girl wasn't cheating. Every time she'd leave, she would just go in the library or to Starbucks and sit there quietly. It's not that she wanted to branch swing. It's just she didn't want to go home to him, which I find even worse. But that's a funny aside. So the next part is Jack's contribution. And he notices the 3 points he catches on are the financial difficulties, the handling the struggle, she's lost respect for me. And he's like, "Look, man, you're a low-value male, and your kids are old enough that your wife has moved past the security phase." If you don't know what the security phase is, Rational Male, I think the second book, has this timeline which shows how women change their sexual preferences over time. And the idea is in her early 20s, she's looking all for the Cancun foam parties. He calls it alpha fucks, but it's all the excitement, all the tough guys, the bad boys kind of thing. And then around 27 or 28, they enter what's called the security phase. A lot of guys refer to it as the wall. It's where a girl wants to settle down, have a family. She feels baby rabies. And that is where a lot of these guys fall into this trap. That's why you notice a lot of your traditional conservative guys, they don't settle down until the girl's in her late 20s, because that's when she wants a guy with a good job, who's good with kids, is going to be a great dad, but is rather boring. And then the idea is at a certain stage, usually around 35, sometimes later, these are never meant to be exact numbers, more so like just a general roadmap, is the kids are now old enough where they become self-sufficient, and it reinvigorates the girl's want for the alpha fucks or the Cancun foam party, the dangerouses, the bad boys, that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, a guy will find out his marriage has been going great until the kids are like 5, 6, 7 years old. And now his good job doesn't count anymore. His ability to be a good father, nobody cares about that. And this is why most divorces happen once the kids are at school age. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, back to the story. She no longer sees you as somebody who can add value to your life. You are a net negative to the marriage, and so she wants to terminate it. It's really that simple. I'm sure you feel like this is shitty, and it is. The harsh fact in life is that as much as we laud effort for effort's sake, using platitudes like 99% perspiration and life is not being knocked down but standing up afterwards, ultimately, the only thing that is rewarded is that the effort is translating into results. Those stories professional athletes love to tell about how hard they trained and grinded in the lessons they learned when they still lost the big championship, but left unspoken, is that they still finished second, which is damn impressive. That's why we respect them. The result of those massive failures, a silver medal, an NFC championship ring, an ALCS pennant, are still more impressive than 99% of us could ever hope to accomplish. So the sweat equity you think you've built up in your marriage is meaningless because the results weren't there for your wife. Furthermore, your failures did not come with consolation prizes that still had tangible results worth it to her or the family. So when we see people grind their hearts out to no results, we don't admire or respect them. We just sort of pity them, kind of like your wife's doing. Now, if you were marginally higher value as a man, this wouldn't be unfolding this way. Your wife would demand you move out, and you'd tell her to go fuck herself, and then you'd get in a really bad argument, but also, possibly, have makeup sex afterwards. Love and anger are very intense and extreme emotions, and that anger would at least indicate that your wife feels something towards you, even if it's projected as negative, because nobody gets outraged about the things that they don't care about. But pity is not an intense emotion. It's not an extreme emotion. Pity is what you feel when some sad Facebook post about Syrian refugees and then click away because your life is better than when you don't have to think about that shit and acknowledge it exists. Pity is what your wife feels for you, and that won't change until you dramatically increase your value. Your upgrade in your appearance and wardrobe is not nearly enough, likely because your wife knows that any conversation longer than 20 minutes with any woman will reveal that you're a divorced guy with a minimum wage night shift job, which is pretty sad, unless you deliberately hide those facts, which is even sadder. I'm not saying all this to rub your nose in the face of failure and make you feel bad. I'm sure you do feel bad because, let's face it, having your life summed up this way is pretty harrowing and depressing. But there's a silver lining. In what you essentially have is nowhere else to go but up. You will either develop and execute on a male action plan and increase your high value enough that your wife may reconsider her decision, or she'll leave you anyway, but either way, you're still better off than you were before your red pill journey, and you can share the fruits of your higher value with any number of new women. The destinations are different, but the paths are identical. It's not that easy, but it is that simple. On that note, a few thoughts. So, if you've been following the red pill for a while, and I don't mean the spectacle stuff, I mean the actual red pill, the academic stuff, the experience stuff, you're going to see a lot of things in there. Like, yeah, there's obviously the high value. There is the high value that's sexually attractive, which he's getting good at. And then there's the comfort, relationship, desirable stuff. And that's where all the other failures, the competent stuff, the he has a good job and good with kids. Now, obviously, she's in that phase where she wants to reinvigorate the excitement stuff, right? But if you want to have a relationship with somebody, you need to balance that. You need to have some of those beta bucks qualities. You have to have some ability to add value to the family. So while this guy is doing what he does need to get due to fix the alpha side of his relationship, he's done nothing to address the beta side. Now, he wants to stay married. So let me ask you this. Fixing the sex life is one thing, but if you want to keep a marriage together, you do have to add some element of value. And that's why a lot of these guys, like what you bring to the table and all that stuff, the value goes both ways. You have to provide what the value the girls wants, and she has to provide the value what you want. So that's generally speaking what a relationship is. And this is a great example when I refer to Briffault's Law, which most guys, if you never heard of it, Briffault's Law is something from Robert Briffault, where he says the woman of a relationship defines the terms of a relationship. And when there's no value, there's no relationship. And a lot of people think, well, yeah, but men can divorce too. It's like, not really. Like, you put yourself in a marriage situation, have it where the wife wants to stay together and the husband doesn't, and the one where the husband wants to stay together and the wife doesn't. Which one do you see lasting longer? And here's a great example of that. And the last part that I really enjoy on this, because a lot of guys get this wrong too, is they'll take a photo of like a supermodel who's like skinny, heroin chic, whatever. And then they'll take another photo of a guy who's done a lot of self-improvement, put on some muscle, but kind of nerdy looking, and they go, see, what's the point? You're never going to beat this guy. And like, that's not the point. You're not trying to beat that guy. You're trying to beat the you before you've done anything. So when this guy's starting on his map, he may think in his head that I am here to save the marriage, but you can't come here with the expectation of saving the marriage. It does not work. It's a covert contract. It'll blow up in your face. And most of the time, it's too late anyway, especially for guys like this. So what you have to do, and we refer to this as the stay plan is the same as the go plan, is work on building your alpha qualities, your beta qualities, in whatever percentage you want. If you just want to have hookups, you don't need many beta qualities. If you want to work on a marriage, then yeah, you're going to work on more of those. But it's a calibration thing. And then whatever happens, happens. You have to have independence to whatever outcome there is. And that's basically it for this one. So enjoy yourself. Cheers. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. Hold up just a second. I got to do some numbering. Where's my goddamn recording? It's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. No, I think that's it. Don't mind the noise if you hear it in the background. Okay, that's me. So what are we on now? 46? Yeah. 46. Oh, the last 5 minutes that I had something in my throat, I was gonna cough, and I'm like, can I tough it out? All right. How you guys doing? Can't believe I got to see MidsWatch's live. Oh, I can believe it. Hey, what's up, Mish? Bishop? Ian? Dr. M. Horse? Just listen to your book audio, bro. Man, you're a guru, intelligent brother. Oh, thanks, man. Like I said, it's not so much that I'm smart. It's just it's something you spend some time in here, you learn, and you're going to get good at it. I got that right mix of OCD and an interest in this topic, which is... Ryan's the only guy I can listen to and understand the point behind what he says the first time. Well, that's a trick, Rob. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but one of my jobs when I was in the military, I was an instructor for fleet school. So I used to teach swimming lessons as a kid, as a lifeguard and that. So, I mean, I've been a teacher for a lot of my life. I like to think I'm fairly good at it. No gaming yesterday. No, it's I've been slowing off on those and trying to do more like scripted content. There's a whole theory, like there's a whole reason behind it, but I don't want to bore you with the details on that one. All right, let me just pull up the next one here. What are we working on? Oh, do I want to read this guy's whole fucking thing? Maybe I'll just sum it up. Because the problem is, like, Jack's got like a gigantic breakdown of his, where he's talking about the CEO firing, and the guy's story here doesn't really matter. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's going to be like when I was recording the audiobook, I had to do like 8 hours of audio recording a day. Oh, by the end of it, you just wanted to die. A girl's asking me questions. I'm like, stop talking. Now, you don't understand. Me getting to watch this live is like having Hulk Hogan, hell yeah, brother me. Oh, well, that's good. Like I said, as long as you guys are watching, I'll keep recording them. Yeah, as far as this guy, I don't know what ended up happening to him. He left after a time. I think it's because his wife left and he was trying to save her and it didn't work. But like, it's really not under your control whether the marriage is saved or not. It really isn't. So what's under your control is making sure that instead of trying to fuck your wife, you just are more fuckable, you know? All right. So yeah, I think we'll do this one. Fucking hell. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, this is going to be a slog. All right. Oh, what am I doing? Why did I hit record on that? All right, never mind. I got to delete that recording. That was the wrong one. Okie dokie. And then I'm gonna get started on the second one. So this is the one about if you're a CEO, like treat your relationship as a business. And if I was the CEO, I'd have fired her ass. So it's an interesting one. If I'm supposed to treat my marriage as a company and I was the CEO, I'd have fired her by now. So what do? Welcome, MidsWatch Ryan. interesting one. This is a long one, so if my voice gets thin at the end of it, bear with. But this is about the dynamic of actually having some like dead weight of a wife. So it started from, and this one isn't actually from like a specific guy asking for anything. This is like 7 years ago now, but at the time of doing this, which was 2023. But it was from the Own Your Shit threads, which every week we'd have a thread where instead of everybody posting their sob story individually, you kind of put them all in one place so everybody could kind of just go through and swap notes together. And this is one of those ones. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the guy's story. It's pretty plain Jane. It was really the response to it from Jack Ten of Hearts, who I've mentioned often, the guy who's tried to add a very good marketing angle, luxury branding to the red pill, which is absolutely good work. And then a couple of my thoughts at the end. So the stories are identical. So we're just going to start as it. Like, look, man, Jack's talking to the guy and he's like, I don't know if it's worth anything, but I had a friend who was struggling with his former CEO, now stay-at-home wife, and I'm pretty much just going to tell you exactly what I told him a couple months ago. He had a similar incident about a month later. His wife came home from some recreational trip, immediately started bitching at him for the state of the household despite his super dad efforts. So to me, this is like, dude, you told me to act like the CEO. Well, if I was CEO, I'd have fired her fucking ass. So should I just get a divorce? And then he also says, look, man, I tried to keep my cool. I told her I was going to take a walk, and then it's like, bzz, wrong answer. Imagine a CEO and a vice president storms in the boardroom and starts yelling about incompetent management. Does he leave his own meeting? No. He'd have sighed, had an expression somewhere in between a chargon and a smirk, and asked everybody else to leave the room. Sorry, guys. Looks like the VP and I have to hash something out. Let's do this again another time. The other VPs would have left out of the room, probably reminding the CEO that he's not Australian, so he shouldn't say mate in a professional setting. Also, they're managing directors, not VPs, which is actually a middle management position in the UK, but they would have filed out. So, Anglo jokes aside, I tell my friend, look, first, you tell your kids to leave the area. You don't leave. You're the authority. I know, it's tough. Your wife just went on a recreational trip, and instead of being pleasant and relaxed, she's a raging cunt. And then, you're going to hit the save now. Finish this on your laptop, because I have another 2,000-word response coming on. So Jack pours himself a drink. Geez, he's getting really theatrical on this one. But by the way, you're not an alcoholic. You just have an alcohol abuse problem when you feel anxious and or depressed. That turns out during these fights, the guy always had to have a drink to calm down. So that was the thing. And he was worried about having an alcohol problem. So he's like, find a different coping mechanism when you feel anxious, depressed, and you won't need a 12-step program. If it's midnight and your wife just went to bed without fucking you and you're still pissed, go for a jog in your neighborhood to let off some steam. And if you get back and still feel compelled to open up a Guinness, then maybe you need to think about, starting those scary words like addiction. But otherwise, I get it. When you feel angsty and you can't vent, a couple of drinks numb the pain, and you might pass out and actually get 6 hours of sleep that night instead of tossing and turning like an ass for 4 hours. As I was saying, my friend, with his former CEO, now stay-at-home mom/wife, storms into the backyard after her own girls' trips to Napa Valley, and the friend says he's going to go for a walk, and he tells me, so I thought I'd let off some steam, but I just kept thinking about how fucked up this is. She takes a trip, literally with my money, and okay, yeah, maybe I could have tidied up the house or whatever, but this is the first thing she says. What the fuck? I'm like, look, man, that's just how this works. The CEO doesn't leave his own boardroom, and he definitely does not say, oh, you have a problem? Well, let me itemize my list of grievances, right? He doesn't do that. He probably sends the other guys out of the room and then may sort of pause, massage his temples, maybe even wince a bit, take a deep breath and say, so, I take it you have some sort of problem with this. He's like, fucking hell. I get it. She has a problem. So I need to listen to her whine about her long flight back and the shitty cab ride and how my super dad efforts are just a day in the life of the aggrieved stay-at-home mom. And he's like, he grabs his friend. Jack's like, dude, I wish you were British so I'd have a more clever word to use than dude. But at this point, I need you to pay attention because it's going to give you an epiphany. Jesus Christ. You know why she was pissed. It had zero validity, but in her mind it did. And you reacted like a woman. Your thinking was, quite simply, I am really not really pissed at your criticism, but the fact that it represents the fact that it only has the most tenuous relation to logic right now. And the fact that I'm married to somebody who thinks comprehending this line of thinking has any validity right now. You know, the friend pauses. He's like, I know I'm right. Since I'm always right about this shit, I ask him, so, do you think that being Mr. Cool, I'm gonna leave the house and not erupt, that did anything but marinate your thoughts and how fucked up it is that your non-fucker of a wife had the audacity to say this? All right, I'm gonna skip a lot of his British stuff here. He's like, yeah, fuck, that happened. So what am I supposed to do? Just calmly deal with their shit? And he's like, no. Jack's like, look, and he breaks the rule here where he's like, yeah, I have this thing called Reddit and a thing called the Red Pill, and there's this subsection for married guys, and I realize this is all pointless because this guy has bigger problems than just like getting a blowjob. And it's a reference to the guy admitting that he has no frame in these situations and he always buckles. It's like, look, your wife is out of line and pisses you off. Just own it. Cut right to the core. The CEO would do this. The VP storms in, clears the room, then he'd sigh, massage his temples. It's like, I'm just disappointed you felt that this is the first thing you had to contribute to the meeting. Oh man, the guy's, my wife would have just lost her shit right then, just gone on about how fucked up all these things are in her absence. He goes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because fundamentally, what she did was fucked up. Look, you already know what happened. She went on a trip. She enjoyed herself. She came back. She probably had a shitty flight since all flights are shitty. There's baggage claim, the taxi stand, yelling at the driver, yelling at the cabbie about Donald Trump or something or other, hamstring about the disorder, all this stuff. Now, she walks in, sees 2 dirty dishes and you playing with a soccer ball. The guy's like, I wasn't playing with the soccer ball. I'm throwing a goddamn American S pie apple skin, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah. She wasn't mad about that. She's mad because she's an anxious type A woman who calls herself a planner. And you know this. Just like you know that she flipped her shit because she saw some dirty dishes and thought the whole house is in disorder, and everything else you did that weekend is irrelevant because she does 10 times that much every day of the week. Well, no shit. And she didn't hesitate to remind you every 30 seconds in that inevitable fight you had either, did you? And the guy's like, yeah, I didn't even tell you about all the shit she said. Are you saying that all of that has any validity? Did I actually fuck up here? He's like, no, you didn't. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Got so much extra stuff here. Oh, all right. Skipping all that. Anyways, there was like a whole big side plot. And he's like, Jack's like, look, man, I think we lost the plot here. It's like, yeah, well, you were giving some good advice. Then I thought you were some English dude. All right. Skipping all this too. What in the fuck is he talking about? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So look, your mistake, and this is the key part of all of this rambling nonsense. The key mistake is that you see both sides of your grievances and you try to find some higher ground where only you have the grievance, which is why all your arguments become a shootout where you both itemize the sacrifices you've made for each other and the family, and you always lose. Because it always comes down to you saying, you don't fuck me as often as I'd like. And she says, sorry, I don't fuck you because I actually spend time with our kids. And you say, well, maybe I'd spend more time with our kids more if I wasn't solely responsible for all of our income. And then she says, well, I had my own career until we both decided it'd be better to stay at home with the kids. And I say, well, maybe that was a mistake because I didn't realize you'd care more about the PTA than fucking your husband. And that's probably when she says some shit like, well, maybe I'd care more about fucking my husband if we were legally married. And then burst into tears, and your kids burst into tears because they're watching your parents fight. So yeah, and that's the problem is when you label these up like this. Anyways, more blah blah blah. Jesus, Jack felt like writing a goddamn book. All right, so here we go. So what do you do then if the wife comes in and starts bitching about the dishes the instant she walks through the door? It's like you probably just sigh and say, "Oh, glad you're back home too." You send the kids to bed, you clean up dinner, call a friend on your cell phone and ask him if he's free to hang out. He goes, "You mean while my wife is bitching at me?" He's like, "Yeah." Because the dinner table needs to get clean, right? So that's your message. It's the VP storming into the bedroom, complaining about it, or the boardroom, complaining about eating underappreciated. The CEO says, fine, you can have a 1.5% raise. Can we start our meeting? And the VP is like, no, it's not about the salary. It's not about the nail. This is really a convoluted story. Let's skip way to the end here. There we go. Wait until the end here. There we go. God damn it. I'm going to spell this shit out for you. This has got to be the worst episode ever. I didn't realize this was this much of a rambly mess that was off point. So you're pissed at your wife for not fucking you. Your wife is pissed that you never commit to her. You both have spent your entire fake marriage pretending this is okay. And at some point, you have to say, look, you know what I want in a first officer, and this isn't it. And she says, well, you made it very clear there's no spot for a first officer in your marriage, so fuck you and all of your, like, fake praise. So you clean the dinner table, you leave the house. Your wife gets hysterical enough to admit that under her hard-ass ball-busting exterior is just an insecure woman who's scared that she's just a baby mama. And yeah, because she storms into the backyard and bitches you out, it's either because she's a bitch and she can fuck off, or because she acts like a bitch and some deep-seated insecurity about commitment you never addressed. So fuck you. You clean the kitchen, you keep her cool, but if she asks what your problem is, you tell her. You own it. You don't like her very much right now because of this behavior. Coming back from a vacation and immediately bitching about the kitchen. And she will be defensive at first, and she will try to misdirect you. And you'll repeat, look, I told you I don't like you very much right now, so if you care about that, you're not really helping your case. And she'll eventually start a sentence with, look, I just lashed out because I said, fuck you or fuck me. She'll start that by saying she had a stressful fight back, and eventually get back to the root cause because you guys both carry a huge pool of resentment for each other because of this lack of yes, no, sex and formal marriage thing, and your marriage probably doesn't get materially better until you deal with that. She doesn't add value to your life as much as you'd like, and if she does, you consider adding value to hers more than you currently do. So either you both come to some sort of understanding on that, or you get divorced. It's that simple. So is this red pill or blue pill? I don't even know. Jack here has been saying blue pill stuff that sounds red and red pill stuff that sounds blue for literally his entire time on here. So eventually the moronic social justice warriors and misogynistic shitlords from the red pill on Reddit will realize it's just the same stuff. They will also both realize their advice is not broadly applicable as they assume, probably around the same time that they're old hassholes in their 40s, and realize extrapolating principles across every gender and relationship is fucking stupid. All right, I'm going to pause here. I think I actually am going to go into the post here because Jack's story is kind of weird. I'm going to have to fix this one in the edit. So this guy is Casual Shanter. It's been some months since he found the sub. He did Married Man's Sex Life Primer, fired off a load of beginning questions. And then he realized his issues. He's got 4 big issues. He doesn't sleep, alcohol, he opens his mouth, and he has no hobbies outside of the gym. He spent the last weekend looking after the kids while the wife was headed to Paris with some girlfriends on a girls' night out. During this time, kids had a good time. Son went to football, daughter went to the park. The kids went out for food, did homework, bought a Christmas tree, went to school Christmas fairs, cooked them both healthy food, did the homework, all that stuff. Wife gets home, finds him in a garden playing football with his kid, while the daughter's reading a book on the sofa. We just finished dinner, hadn't cleaned up yet. So rather than express thanks for 2 days away drinking wine in Paris or all the good shit he did with the kids, the wife looks at the kitchen and goes ballistic. At this point, he was tired, hadn't been to the gym for a couple days, so he figured I'm not going to keep my cool, so I put on my coat and told her I wasn't going to have that talk with her while she's like this, and he booked. Didn't go far. He drove up the road, sat and listened to music. The wife rings him up, begging to come around and come home. And when he gets back, he's calm but distant, and she doesn't like that, so she goes into it, rips into him, and he loses his fucking mind. He shouts at her and yells at her in front of the kids, calls her an ungrateful bitch, said we had a great time without her, but he's screaming. She cries, the kids cry, he's like, this is a fuck up, son of a bitch. So why did he explode? Well, he's not getting enough sleep. Between sleep, work, and the kids, he knows it's not enough. And when he goes to bed, he fucks about on his phone or listens to music. And on top of that, he has an unhealthy relationship with booze. So after the wife went to bed, she's crying. He drank a bottle of wine in about an hour and then drunkenly decided to screw around on YouTube, didn't get enough sleep, woke up next day even more tired. This is something he's doing again and again and again. Often, at weekends, when the kids were finally in bed and the missus went to bed early, he fills the void with booze and it's doing nothing good to him at all. And then finally, when he's tired and drunk, he opens his mouth and says honest things that he probably shouldn't. Yells at the family, scared the kids. Told my wife I wanted a woman who wanted me and wasn't just putting out in order to keep a life funded by me. Yeah, idiot, negotiating desire. I know better. Anyway, so he makes a bunch of things saying he needs to stop drinking in the house, needs to stop doing this. So uh, it, you're watching this stuff out of order now. But so you've heard from his story, and you've heard Jack's rambling mess of a story. I'm going to add my thoughts onto this one and hopefully bring this all together. So the guy's obviously common law married. He's not married. The girl's insecure about that and worries about the commitment side of things. And for some reason, one of the ways that she tries to express this is by, killing the bedroom. At the same time, she's very neurotic. She's very insecure. And it comes out with a thin veneer of narcissism. It turns out a lot of women, when they are insecure, their way of coping with that and their way of soothing that is to act like a raging narcissist. Hence, nagging cunt stuff. So the way to deal with this stuff is you have to get to the core of it. I hate to say it, but if you really do want to, you don't have to, but you're in the relationship, you might as well make an effort, especially if you got kids together, is you have to be a therapist here. So in this case, she's freaking out about this stuff. Keep your shit about you because you realize, okay, is she really mad because everything is perfect except for 2 dishes in the sink? No, it's not. It's completely unrealistic. And so once you realize it's not about you, you can distance your emotions from it. You don't need to freak out. Guys freak out because they have expectations. I did everything, and you need to appreciate that. Well, she's a woman, and she didn't. And she's probably hungover from wine. So yeah, she's not going to. So now you realize, well, then why doesn't she? That's so rude and evil. It's well, let me ask you this. Why do you need your wife or girlfriend or baby mama or whatever to validate you running the house to your standard? You don't. And then once you realize that, you're all right. It's the same way as you treat a kid crying for no reason. You put them to bed, give them a thing, let them talk, and eventually they'll let out some giant insecurity, and that's the actual thing to deal with. And this is actually a very shitty version of a comfort test, if you boil it down. And this is why when a lot of guys say, I said things calmly and rationally and blah, 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 and then she's still freaking out, you can tell they're not calm and they're not rational, but they kind of understand they need to be. And the reason they can't be is because they have a covert contract. I did everything. She needs to be respectful of that. And it's no, she doesn't. So once you have to internalize the idea that she's just like a kid. She'll emote and she has no control over it, and it has nothing to do with you. It's about some other insecurity. And as long as you can accept that, then you just realize it's like a 4-year-old calling you a poopy head. And if you got a 4-year-old calling you a poopy head, what do? Do you drop kick her through the drywall? It's no. You laugh, you give her a noogie, and you move on with your day. It's that kind of thing here. So ultimately, it's boiling down to a situation where he's tired of a sexless marriage, and she's tired of a non-marriage marriage. Now, one of these two are going to have to buckle. It's for one social strategy or for one sexual strategy to succeed, the other one has to fail. And until this battle over, who gets to wear the pants in a relationship is over, it's going to constantly be at this level here. And a lot of them, they tend not to want to play chicken like this because there's kids involved and they're trying to be nice about it. Now, what's the solution? Well, that's not up for me. That's up for you. I'm common law married with mine, so I'm not going to get married or have the ring. And she's fine with that. So that's the way it went for me. There's other guys like traditional, conservative, you must get married. And again, that's another option. And there's a whole bunch of trade-offs that happen with either decision. But you, generally speaking, have to make one like this. And it's either she wins, you win, or you both part. And that's generally how these interactions go. The part that goes wrong is when you start emotionally investing in all the little details, because this is what he literally describes it before. You have all these grievances and you start listing them off. Well, I did this. Well, I did this. And you guys are playing who's the more downtrodden victim here. And it really doesn't matter. There's 2 dishes in the sink. We'll get them later. Sit the fuck down. If you're going to yell in front of the kids about this shit, go to your room, have a nap. If she doesn't do that, then yeah, I agree. It's your house. You don't leave the house. But sometimes you do. Sometimes it's just, all right, kids, mom needs a minute. You take the kids, you go get some ice cream, you F off, and she can sit there alone with her thoughts. Don't answer the phone. If it's important, it's face-to-face important. And just having her continue the argument by phone or by text message. Don't answer text. Don't listen to phone calls. Eventually, she realizes, and this is one of those things where you have to train your girl how to address you. You will respect me. Well, you got to incentivize it. You got to show her how it happens. In this case, when she starts emoting like this, You're non-responsive. She can't get what she wants. When she's emoting to you, it's because she wants those emotions reflected back. If she's angry at you, she wants you to be angry back. It's a validation thing. So when she realizes all this shitty behavior does not get any response, doesn't get anything, it starves that fire. And then eventually, you know, out of pure exasperation, you just get a normal conversation. And you can even say as much. It's like, look, when you can talk to me like an adult, we'll have an adult conversation. And that's it. So, again, this one's like a really difficult one to break down. It does ultimately boil down to one of them is going to win and one of them is going to lose, and they're too proud to say it. It's not your problem, though. It's not. I don't have an ending for this one, so I'm just going to end it. Fuck me. I don't know how I'm going to work that one. I think that one might be a non-episode. Jack's thing. Dude, I didn't even get through a third of it. He was ranting about British beer and stuff, and I was like, fuck me. This is just going to confuse people. So I'm hoping that the final 2 minutes there might help get the point across. I might just skip all the Jack stuff on it, though. I think. Yeah. But honestly, on that one, it really is the case. Like, his inability to deal with comfort tests, his inability to take drama, and the girl's, like, type A type personality and the bitching thing. It's just, this is what most shitty marriages are like. And so for the guy, just learning how to handle yourself in the situation, the wife at least isn't getting rewarded for acting like a cunt. And then she just stops acting like it. Funny enough, that's how a lot of those things work. Yeah, it was a little rough. Anyways, it'll be fixed in the edit. What's the next one? How much red pill is too much? Oh yeah, this one's fun. See, this one's a little bit lighter. I like this one. I drink because you make me miserable. Well, I mean, that's a cope. Dave's here, been watching a lot of your old stuff. Finally glad to catch a live one. Awesome, real world information, communicated practically. Well, yeah, last episode, you know, aside, for sure. She had a crap trip, was looking for a reason to go off. Well, a lot of it is. Most fights, if you guys are single, you may not know this. Most fights you're going to have with your woman are because of like 4 reasons. She didn't get fucked last night. She hasn't been fed. She's hungry. She needs a nap. She's tired and cranky. Or she talked with her mom on the phone. 90% of fights you're going to have with your woman is not about anything but those 4 things. Give her a sandwich, lie her down, kiss her on the forehead, and say her mother's a bitch. I guarantee you, in about 20 minutes, it'll be just fine. And then the night before, realize when she's like, hey, honey, what are you up to? And you're like, oh, let's go to sleep. And then the next morning you wake up to a shitstorm. You're like, next time, I'm going to give up that 10 minutes of sleep, take her to Pound Town, and tomorrow she'll be pleasant and comfy and give me a coffee and I'll have great. All that talk about teaching jinxed it. No, that one actually is a bit more of a mess than I gave it credit for. I've read it through twice and I just didn't see it. The worst case scenario, I skip it. But that's fine. This one's going to be good. This one's a be on Dread, so you're going to like it. Anyways. So you can make your wife do things, but you can never make her want to do things. And that's the trick. MidsWatch, Ryan, welcome. This one is meta. I like the meta. The meta conversations. This one's about dread, where guys like, how much red pill is too much. The reason I enjoy these things is because for a lot of you guys, you only see it now that it's like 7, 8, 9, 10 years after the fact. And things for the most part are being crystallized. But there's still a lot of times where in the past, we were still working out the kinks. Like a lot of guys were doing things. We didn't have like a solid system. And dread was this for like the longest time. And so this is one of those ones. So this guy's been lurking for a long time using a new account because he wants it just for the red pill, keeping it separate from his main stuff, which solid advice. If you're ever going to be like red pill online, make it a different account than your work account or your personal account and stuff like that, because you just don't need that aggravation in your life. He's 39. His wife's 34. Married 10 years, 2 kids. He just found out about the red pill and he's like, I've been more closer to what you guys would define as alpha than beta in most of my marriage. In other words, sexually desirable has been like his predominant trait. His wife's a stay-at-home mom, started a part-time job. She's awesome mother to the kids, defers to him as a good first officer. Marriage is good overall. I'm hotter than she is, and we used to be equal before we got married, but after kids, she let herself go. I've stayed in shape. I run triathlons. I don't know why I said triathletes. And he's just recently started lifting. So he learned about the red pill from a close friend. It was a game changer for that guy. And most of the things that I'm reading about seem obvious to me, which, generally speaking, they should be. The more attractive you are, the more obvious this stuff should sound. Most of the things he's reading seems obvious. I have been practicing most of them without giving them a label. I use some dread on my wife, but don't have to use much since she usually gets in line without a lot of resistance. Our sex life is good. She's always DTF whenever I want. She doesn't say no. I'm really accommodating if she's tired and sick, but she complies if I ever insist. The problem is lack of blowjobs. She hates giving them, says they make her gag. When we were dating, she used to make an effort, but once we got married, she stopped completely. On the few occasions that I have insisted on them, all I got was a hand job with a mere pretense. She gives a hard no about anal, and I've made my peace with that, but I'm very disappointed she won't blow me. When I need advice on whether I should use increased dread to make her give me them, or I should accept it's not going to happen given that our life is so good otherwise, I thought that going through life without ever getting my dick sucked is depressing. Am I justified if I try to get them outside my marriage if she doesn't start? So these parts here, Jack has his own piece on here, which I think is a good part to understand about dread, is that it's not a catch-all tool. It's enough to get started, but at some point you're going to have to add your own value to it, and that just creating anxiety isn't enough. And he goes, yeah, dread's the only good answer, but unfortunately you phrased things insufficiently red pill, so let me try. In my screed about dread, which I'd link to, but fuck it, I compare it to marketing campaigns and the idea of anxiety being at the tail end of desire. Good passive dread looks like a good marketing campaign. Shows you an attractive product, implies that dread works as a marketing campaign, that only a select elite kind of person can own it, and maybe this product won't be around forever. These ideas generate anxiety, which then compels the marketer's audience to go out and buy some shit. The best company at this time is Apple, which is like 1,000 people lining up at every store just to get the new iPhone Mini Air 6S and the Siri 128 gig handjob accessory. Actually, the best recent example is the Apple Watch, which is a trinket, but not a product category game changer. But all the Apple fanboys all bought one. They say it's great, they're really happy with it, but I've noticed none of them use it because they bought the product out of compulsion. They didn't actually want it. But the Apple brand is literally that strong that any sufficiently thin and white consumer electronic device will compel millions of people to go buy that shit. They don't want it, but they have to have it. So dread can compel your wife to do pretty much anything, but it can't ensure she'll ever want to do those things. The idea is, with dread, presenting yourself as a high-value product whose availability can't be taken for granted will make your wife stop putting her interest over yours all the time, since that's what happens with husbands who are taken for granted. Every time somebody says, I like to make him happy because that makes me happy, all they're really saying is, I like to make him happy because that means I'm adding value to his life so that he won't leave, and him not leaving makes me happy. Now, when a wife cooks me a steak on her anniversary, she did do it because she felt Did she do it because she felt I'd leave her steakless ass at the first moment? No, of course not. Here's what happened. Started dating my wife. She liked me. She thought about the ways she could add value to my life, things that would make her more attractive than other women, so she did those things. There was an intersection of the things she liked doing for their own sake, and this is generally what she keeps doing. Healthy dread, as I like to call it, manifests as this. I need to do something nice for him. I want to cook him a steak because I like cooking. An unhealthy dread sounds like this. I need to do something sexually pleasurable for him. I have to give him a blowjob because that's the only thing that'll make him happy sexually. So, it'll work. You'll get blowjobs, and enough dread will communicate that your wife, blowjobs or divorce, and you can get your answer, blowjobs. But can't guarantee she'll like it. And I assume for those of us who want more, we imagine our wives enthusiastically deep-throating the shit out of us and talking about how they want us to all over their face, blah, blah, blah. Dread cannot make that happen. It'll just get you a resentful blowjob as your wife limply sucks your member and wonders whether she could hate you for reducing your marriage's survival to this, or whether she should hate herself for somehow finding that acceptable. Now, if you're into equal parts contempt and self-loathing, maybe you're okay with this. Tim Cook is into the selling of overpriced and underpowered electronics to people who don't realize that they don't need them, and Apple will continue to do so as long as it's true, but that won't be true forever. At some point, the products actually need to be good, be something that people want to buy, be a real industry game changer. Steve Jobs thought, nobody wants X, so I shouldn't make X. Tim Cook thinks, nobody will buy X, so I shouldn't make X, but he is totally fine making shit people will buy but don't want, which is why Steve Jobs is an industry legend and why half of you had to Google Tim Cook's name earlier to even know who I was talking about. Now, this is where it gets into a gray area. A lot of commenters are going to think that, Op's wife is full of shit because they've had wives that claim they hated them, but now enthusiastically give them all the time. But here's what happens. I need to do something nice for him. I want to cook him a steak because I like cooking. Remember that line? Those wives liked blowjobs, but they didn't feel like they needed to give them or do anything in particular to add value to their beta bucks bitch of a husband's life. One-sided sexual acts generally fall under, they make me feel good when I do them to a good man. So, increasing your value and using dread to indicate that taking your value for granted has consequences, as if taking anything for granted shouldn't. Sex and even oral, blah, blah, blah. It unlocks the first part of that sentence. Your wife stops thinking, yeah, I like that stuff, but am I supposed to put my mouth around that guy's dick? That loser didn't even have a passing resemblance to my fit and sexy husband? Yeah, no. But Ob said he's already super duper alpha all the whole time, so what gives? Is his wife an essentially deceptive harpy shrew who misled her husband into thinking that she was a blowjob loving nympho? Probably not. She never liked him, and as time passed, she tried to trade them out for other things. But everybody does this. When you realize your wife likes X and you like X, then you do that instead of Y, where Y is something that, she likes and you don't, like watching rom-coms, whatever. If your wife cooks you a steak, you don't need to watch Sex in the City, you'll do a bunch of those other things. Anyways, this is a long-winded way of saying that if your wife is adventurous and enthusiastic in the bedroom and adds value to your life in a lot of other ways, maybe it's not worth a massive marital upheaval just because your wife doesn't do one specific thing that you read on a subreddit that you're supposed to get. So, tagging on to this from my side, it's one of those, life is never about good or bad, and I always hate how marketers like to portray red pill as in like you can win anything you want forever. You want anals and blowjobs, the first date, we can change her for you, and you can't change other people. Some things people don't like. Some things people like, but they don't like it with you. And part of this whole doing dread is understanding the difference. Some women will never do anal, ever. Some women love it, but they don't love it with you. Now, that second group of women are the type that if you're in a relationship with, you run dread, you can go back to that. But at some point, you're going to realize where her own personal boundaries are in the relationship. Things that she does, things that she won't do. Things you do, and things you don't do. And like any set of decisions in life, you guys have to make a decision. Is it worth keeping this one around if I don't get everything that I want? And sometimes you have to say yes. You know what? I can give up on blowies for the rest of my life, but she's a great mother, great kids. We do everything else. She stays in shape, like all this kind of stuff. Or sometimes a guy's like, you know what? It's just not worth nuking the marriage. And then there's another side, which is a little bit, it hasn't really been explained in here, but this is one of those ones. I love it. It came from The Last Psychiatrist, and it refers to Rollo Tomasi's article, Saving the Best. Never read it. It's about a guy who, had a lackluster sex life with his wife. She didn't like doing any of these things. He found an old tape of her banging 3 college dorm boys, doing all the stuff that she hated doing with them, and they didn't commit at all. And he was pretty pissed about that. I dated a whore that fucks like a prude, right? This guy never liked anal with his wife until he saw somebody else getting it. And now all of a sudden he wants it. So when you're doing these decisions of what it is that you want out of a marriage and what it is you don't want, you have to be careful that you just don't want it for the principle of the thing. And this is where that Apple marketing watch comes in. Like, did you really want this from your wife, or did you just want it because she used to do it in college? Or did you just want it because some guy online is telling you about getting it from his wife? What is it you actually want if nobody else got to tell you what you wanted? And it's a meta lesson, but it's a good lesson. Your boundaries, your wants, your desires, they have to be yours. They can't be influenced by other people. Because if they're influenced by other people, you're not just getting out of your wife's frame and building yourself your own frame, you know, your own vision for the future. All you're doing is you're trading validation from your wife into validation from some asshole online who's telling you what you're supposed to want out of life. And that's not the way the red pill works. You're supposed to build up your own values that represent what is you want from your life from experience. And if you can't get there, then there's really no helping you, because all you're doing is looking for another dad figure. And talk to any guy who was like, Jordan Peterson is like the dad I never had. And then once they found out he was on diazepam or meth pills or whatever it was that he was, they're like, oh, turns out my dad was a bit of a drug user. And then they got disenfranchised. And then they're like, oh, Trump is the dad I never had. And then he did his Trump stuff. And everybody's like, all right, Andrew Tate's the dad I never had. It's like, guys, stop looking for dad. Be your own. You don't need a role model. What you need is direction. So that's it on me. Cheers, boys. All right. D&D. No, yeah, D&D night's not happening. Rolo caught a case of the Wu-Tang flu. So yeah. Technically, I did stream yesterday, fall of 15 seconds. Actually, technically, that was a technical test. It was supposed to be a private stream, but it didn't go. YouTube just added something called AV1, which is a way of like higher quality streams with less bandwidth. So we're seeing how that goes. Jason, $6.99 super chat. Thoughts on paying for the first date or splitting the tab? Meet her halfway or have her come to you? Thanks. Why are you on a date with a girl you haven't fucked yet? That's the funniest part of this shit. Guys treat a date like it's a goddamn interview. Well, we're going to go out to dinner and then I'll talk to her, and if things go well, we'll sleep. Like, first, nobody fucks on a full stomach. Nobody. If you're going out having dinner, she's going to be too full to want to do anything anyway. So why did you even go out? Secondly, see all this awkwardness? It's because, well, what are we in touch? How about this? Wait until you got a girl that's had sex with you a couple times and actually you enjoy spending time with, then reward her by taking her out to dinner. And then it's not about who pays for the date. It's because you're rewarding her for good behavior. Then you just grab it. That's fine. But feeding a chick before you even know if you like her, or you know, how many times are you going to go on a date with a girl and you find out she's crazy and frigid and married or God knows what else. And you're like, and I got to feed her? No, man, don't waste your time. Split the tab. Fuck that. No tab to have. She can have McDonald's. This is why I say, like, coffee dates, bar dates. Taking a girl out for drinks, that's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you pay for a girl to drink? Going out for coffee, I'm here to find out in the first 15 minutes if you're crazy and want to stab one of my animals with a knife. I can pay the $5 for a Starbucks to choose that. But yeah, taking a girl out to dinner? Like, fuck that. Don't do that. Yeah. Crazy, that's my fetish. Oh. Well, Sack, if your fetish is crazy, I'm sure they're good in bed. Hold up. Direction, doesn't that mean you're finding a role model? No, you are the role model. You don't need other people to tell you what you're supposed to want out of life. Out of all the things that I've said on here that resonates with people, the one that's been the hardest thing to articulate, it's one of the few things that I'm like flat out saying, like direction-wise, is stop looking to other people for guidance. Choose your own path. And this is the hardest one. Well, what about what this guy says? What about what that guy says? And I'm like, fucking slow down. You get to want what you want, even if other people think it's stupid. Like, say what you will about the Adam 22 guy, and I shit post a bit on Twitter, but with his whole, like, passing his wife around for clout thing, you can't embarrass him. He's made the decision that he's doing it. So it's like, can you really fault a guy? He is living his mental point of origin, as horrific as I find it to be. He doesn't seem to care. Same as that turd flinging monkey guy. You see him? He got that sex doll with an Instagram page, and he's like, I don't give a fuck. Obviously, you're not going to like this, but I'm happy. I'm like, I'll poke fun, but I mean, at the end of the day, you can't argue that the guy's got his direction. Unrealized thoughts. If you ask me again for a mentor, I swear to God, I'm giving you the full Billy. No, you don't need a mentor who's done it before. You don't. All you get when you're looking for a mentor or anything like that is you're getting somebody to tell you, hey, live my life. It worked out great for me. And they're not going to tell you what's best for you. They're going to tell you what's best for them. But couch. Enough. Not saying you can't get individual ideas from people. If you want to learn how to start a YouTube channel or what kind of camera to buy, absolutely. You can look up to me for that stuff and I'll tell you that specific information. But the values, what you're supposed to value in your life, what content you're supposed to do, it's like you don't want us answering that for you. Why shouldn't I look up to you? You haven't even pissed on me yet to put out my dumpster fire. Hush. All right, so what are we left with here? 1, 2. Is there 3? This one's nice and quick, I guess. Oh, that's right. So this is the shit test one. 1 sec. It's the shit test and shitty comfort tests. Yeah. All right, this one's easy. This is an easy one. You guys will enjoy it. It's pretty clear cut. Fitness test versus a really crappy comfort test. We're on the MidsWatch. It's Ryan. Welcome, guys. This is going to be a very simple distinction. A lot of guys don't understand what we talk about when we talk about fitness tests or, the SHIT tests. Sorry, YouTube. Got to wait 30 seconds to start cussing. The difference between those and comfort tests and crappy comfort tests. So this guy here, he's been at this like a month. The small tests are much less frequent, but the bigger tests are starting to show up. He's been heavily adopting his, shedding the nice guy behavior from No More Mr. Nice Guy. He's at the gym every day. He's at least doing cardio if he's not lifting. He's feeling a lot better about himself. He's improved everything, and most of the time, his wife is much friendlier. He's like, yeah, I created one nasty-ass bitch by becoming my dad and making her into my mom. So I'm assuming he means psychologically. But she had the biggest shit test now. Now, nothing is new to the relationship, but it's a different perspective than I'm in previously, where I would, beta up and say, I'm sorry, kiss her ass and try to make her feel better again. This drunk captain was me before the married red pill. I've since quit drinking, set boundaries in my marriage and my business, began working out heavily, reading, putting myself first, reshaping my mind around not doing everything to please my wife. So last night, when she said she wanted to go to a Mexican restaurant, which we used to go to a lot, I told her we don't need to go out to dinner, and then I had plans to grill some steaks for dinner. Anyways, when I got home, she was in full bitch mode, sent me a text as I was pulling up to the house, so much for what I wanted, and I just ignored it. She had a bad attitude all evening, grilled a steak, watched the game, got the daughter ready for bed, with a very little interaction from wife, obviously. And she said she's going to go to bed as well. Went upstairs, the man cave, got on the married red pill, and read about Frame. An hour later, went back downstairs, took a shower, and went to bed. So I thought. I'm going to skip his background here. Oh, actually, no, I'm not. A little background. Last year, I was spending some time with another woman who I dated before I met my wife. As it's been said before, if you have an emotional thing with another woman, they call it cheating, even without any physical touch. Well, she found out all about it, went down the litany of, see a marriage counselor, blah, 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 I love yous. And he's been through like the last year of his marriage, just like supplicating to this little grievance. So our relationship has a bit of a different element than others, as we own 2 businesses together and rarely have time apart. The dynamic definitely increases the difficulty as we have to interact all the time. To her credit, she's strong, ambitious, and talented. Of course, those things which attracted me to her in the first place definitely makes her the toughest woman I've ever dealt with, and all my previous women have backed down much easier than her. Here's where I need the help. I know I didn't do this right, but the fact that I maintained my composure and didn't get angry was a huge win. She started with her usual line of questioning, which is, did I know what was going to happen? Preparing myself for the emotional difficulty I was going to have. Why did you go upstairs for 2 hours? What were you doing up there? Watching porn? Talking to that bitch again? So he's prepared, he thought. He wasn't prepared for this much shit. He told her, I don't need porn, or that girl, and you've been doing great lately. Well, why don't you tell me what you were doing for 2 hours? Now keep in mind the irrationalness of a woman. He's upstairs for 1 hour, and he's like, I wasn't doing anything important enough to discuss. So why won't you tell me you were doing? Were you being shady? And if he's like, if I told you, you'd still question it, so it doesn't really matter. You want to fight? Here we're at. I'm so sick of your shit. You're a cocky asshole, selfish piece of shit. And this is where he probably should have just walked away, but he was having so much fun watching her lose her shit and be out of control that he just kept provoking her. He's usually the one that gets his buttons pushed, and finally, for once, he's pushing hers. He's like, I'm selfish? Explain. You go to the gym every night. You don't help with the kids. He's like, yes, I do. I take care of myself and I'm the one who makes dinner for the family. Well, thank you for dinner. Anyways, he kind of goes over the rest of this fight, and I'll save you the hassle of the he said, she said. It ends off with a big explosion. Oh my God, stop talking to me. Leave me the fuck alone. I want a divorce. I don't want to see you again. Okay, but please let me know if you're serious this time. Yes, I'm serious. I don't want to be with you. All right, have a good night. So he went upstairs to bed. The war within began quickly. The hamstring was alive, running full tilt. Jesus, did I just fuck up my marriage? The guy's freaking out. I know she's not serious. I need to be strong. I should go back down there. He's like, no, I'm not going to fall for this shit test. So this morning, he kissed the kids goodbye, and the wife muttered some question about guys coming home to do some work in the patio. He's like, I'll handle it, and left. And so now he's confused. He's like, all right, so what did I do wrong, and what should I have done? So Jack's got a nice quick thing here, and then I'll add some points afterwards. Jack says here, because the kid was worried about if it was a main event, and the main event comes at the end of Dread when you've had a very headstrong wife this whole time running roughshod over the marriage, and the power dynamic shifts to the point where you're in charge, and now she's worried about losing you, does not know how to keep you, provides the mother of all comfort test. Snot bubbles, crying, the works. He's like, I don't think this was a main event. But I do think one of the other guys called it, because when we assume this overreaction over dinner party plans typically only happens when she's built up a lot of resentment over something tangentially related but symbolic, I think this is it. My wife is suggesting plans, I've vetoed them, and then she throws a shit fit. It seems like a shit test, but it's really a shitty comfort test. Because when this happens in my marriage, my wife is communicating, I feel like we are boring lately, and your lack of awareness about this is frustrating to me and causing issues. Let's Get Mexican Food isn't about steak versus tacos. It's about getting dressed, putting on makeup, having margaritas, enjoying the ambiance of a corny mariachi band, and not having to worry about cleaning up. And what they don't want is this whole conversation you just had. So let's get Mexican food. I was going to make steak. Ugh, you never want to eat outside. All right, whatever, steak. Fine. If it matters that much, let's get Mexican. Why don't you want to have her do anything fun? Like, what the fuck? You wanted to get Mexican, so I said, let's get Mexican. How is this about me not wanting to have fun? Am I supposed to read your mind about this shit? So this conversation is awful for guys, but it's not exactly a picnic for the women either. Because this is their man making it abundantly clear that they are just not getting it. Just like we say, you're not supposed to negotiate sexual desire. Women don't want to feel like they're coaxing their socially inept, insignificant other to get out of the house and break up monotony. This is why you get shitty comfort tests. There's no power dynamics here, the way most people think about shit tests. It's just a woman disappointed that her once Amazon delivering fresh groceries is ubiquitous. Her husband will probably never leave the house. So we'll end this off on my thoughts. It is funny how a lot of these things are not actual issues, but they're just like small issues blown up. In this case, yeah, it is the case that wife is bored. And when she's bored, she wants something to do. And so she makes suggestions to stuff. And the guy's not thinking about this from an emotional standpoint. He's thinking about it logistically. I already have steaks. Why would we go out to Mexican? There's a reason that manufactured outrage works. If you guys don't know, it's a strategy I talk about where if you know you tend to have these fights every 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, you just get proactive. Your wife needs some excitement, so every once in a while, just pick a fight over some nonsense. But it has to be nonsense, things you don't care about, because that way you can escalate it, get the drama out of the way, and then drop it off. Now, there's multiple ways to deal with it. You can just start having more dates like this too, but the one thing I find is that every time a girl suggests ways of staving off boredom, they're never very good. They aren't really. She just wants some excitement. And sometimes it's a case, yeah. Going out to dinner might be the case. Going out to an event might be fine. But sometimes just yelling at her and calling her a cunt and then bringing it back down like you just totally forgot the entire thing is all it takes. But I mean, there's a bunch of tools. Come up with your own. A lot of this, and this is important. It sounds like I'm just playing games and the girl's playing games and everybody just, why don't you just eat the steaks and shut up? Look, you guys have all heard the stats. 7 out of 10 divorces are initiated by the woman. Over half of marriages are divorced within 10 years. Everybody knows these stats. Every MGTOW, every angry feminist love to parrot these around, and they love to blame the boogeyman. Oh, the guys are doing this because they're useless pieces of shit. Oh, the girls are doing this because they're evil hoes and they want half your money. It's like neither one's true. Do you know why women initiate like 70% of the divorces? It's not because abuse. It's not because alcoholism. It's not because of infidelity. Not because of money. It's for one reason. She's not happy. She's bored. So imagine if all you had to do was like have a fight once in a while or go do something exciting once in a while to keep your marriage together. Is that so much to ask? Not really. But I don't want to. Yeah, well, sometimes we do what we don't want to do. It's just the way it works. So once you understand, and this is where I love like talking red pill with people who take it seriously, because you get all the fresh and fit guys who are just like, the bitch belongs to the streets. And I'm like, this is such like a small skill set that's so easy to learn and internalize. Why are you having a temper tantrum over it? And like, oh, I remember why. Because you're single and you have to invite girls on your podcast and get a blowjob promise because you don't know how to have any game. I get it now. So yeah, every now and then just realize, be exciting. Not necessarily like you don't always have to make a big, extravagant, showy thing of this. Just it's like an emotion. All you need is an emotion. Pick a fight one day over nothing. When she starts yelling at you, leave the house for 2 hours and refuse to say where you went. Have her do these things here. Ever threaten a divorce. Go to bed. Wake up the next morning like nothing ever happened. It's like watching a Mexican telenovela. Or, if you want a guy reference to this, for those of you who had brothers, and I'm positive you have this experience, you're sitting down, you're watching WrestleMania 8 or SummerSlam 1997 or whatever, and you watch Hulk Hogan do a leg drop or the Ultimate Warrior do a gorilla press or Stone Cold Stunner, and then what do? You go and you drop kick your brother on the sofa, and then he punches you in the head, and you fight over some foam belt you got in SummerSlam the year before. It's exciting. It's fun. It doesn't really matter. You're just fucking around. It's like that. It's no different than you fighting with your brother after watching Hulk Hogan flex for 20 minutes on the camera. And you just might end up having a much more interesting marriage without having to go to Mexican night every couple weeks. So take that with you and enjoy yourself. Oh, Bish, thank you very much, brother. No Billy's allowed in the chat. Why shouldn't I look? Okay, that one there. All little things. That's like my parents. You never want to do anything fun. We literally came here because you suggested it. Yelling ensues. Yeah. Just realize the yelling is the excitement. Just why are you so invested in it? A lot of guys do this. As soon as their girl gets mad, they're like, well, she's mad and it makes no sense. Therefore, I am mad. Who has the frame in that interaction? Girl brings anger. Guy leaves with anger. That's frame. That's fucking frame. As opposed to girl brings anger. Guy jokingly brings anger, then goes and laughs it off and grabs himself a coffee. Who has frame there? Who can manipulate the other person's emotional state? That's why I have the emotional pillar of frame. You have to understand your emotions and why these things are happening. Yeah, all this stuff is ridiculous. But that's the point, is like, the only problem the guy had here is he took it seriously. Understand the dynamic. A girl hates monotony. She hates to be bored more than anything else. Read it through Puck. Read it through Chateau Artiste. Read it everywhere. The worst thing you could do is bore your girl. Well, she is bored right now. She wants to go out to Mexican food. Well, throw some excitement in there. Stop spouting the rules and play the game. Throw her steak in the trash. Fuck it. Fuck it. That's it, man. So let me do the title for that one. What the hell? Don't mind the noise in the background. I don't remember if this was any good. 12 minutes. 11 minutes. What the hell was that one? Oh, those are MKVs. Okay, never mind. 43. I keep forgetting. So like you have to record these on what's called an MKV format. And the reason you do that is because if like the thing crashes, I don't lose all the footage. If you record an MP4, it does. But then what it has to do is it has to remux an MP4 so DaVinci Resolve can do it. So the problem is I have to double up every one of my files as I make this thing, and I have to pay attention to that. Otherwise, fucking whatever. Hit like. I'm trying to work around it, but he keeps closing in on my new times. What, me again? Oh, are we overlapping? I swear to God, stop changing your streaming schedule. There's no schedule. This is going to be like the only one I need to do for like the next month. So, yeah. Do I want it? Is this one a... What the fuck is this? I don't remember this one. Hold up a sec. I lost track of where I was. The retrospected. Oh, Weak Thrame and Perseus. Oh, okay. I know the one. All right, not a purposeful journey. Ultimate role unknown. Backs and bona fides. Oh, fuck. I'm not reading all this. No. This one here was this guy Perseus, but the problem is it's like a fucking hour to read all that. A whole saga, and I'm not reading it all. So the question is there anything I can pull out of this one, or do I just skip the episode? I guess maybe I can just do Jax. Oh, dude. Oh, that's this one. Oh, good. Guys, I'm so excited. You have no idea how excited I am. I didn't even realize this was it. I've been looking for this post for fucking years. Years. It was this one. It came to describing frame. I brought it up in the Patreon a bunch of times. I've talked about it on Red Morning a bunch of times. So it's the one where, you know how I always say, own the frame you have. Don't pretend to have the frame you want. And this is the example. Oh, yeah. Planet divorcing you. Kids get older. Oh, shit. And that's the problem, is it's such like a long-winded thing. Maybe I can get away with just this. Maybe I can just get away with this. Because does he sum it up? Yeah, we can do the TLDR, and we'll do the final paragraph. Oh, you're gonna love this one. Oh, I love this one. I'm giddy as a schoolgirl right now, man. Giddy as a schoolgirl. All right. Yeah. Okay. I have been looking for this for years. It's about owning the frame you have and not pretending to have the frame you want. It's the MidsWatch. Welcome. I'm Ryan, and I am excited. I have been looking. I could not remember where it was, but I knew this one was here. I have been referencing it for years. And now I finally see it. And that's the problem, is that it's like such a giant field report. It's like an hour worth of reading. It's like 20,000 words on the main thing, and then some breakdowns afterwards here. So what I'm going to do is you're going to get a very abbreviated version of his field report, because it's all the same stuff you've heard everywhere about no more Mr. Nice Guy and to stop doing validation seeking and codependence. It's about when I say no, I feel guilty and assertiveness. It's about practical female psychology and understanding the male and female dynamics. It's about rational male and understanding the sexual marketplace. All of this stuff. And this guy was articulating an entire like year's worth of work into a very long-winded post. But the part that I love about it is how he kind of he was the epitome of frame in probably one of my favorite ways. So I'm gonna stop cheerleading this thing, and I'm just gonna get into it. The TLDR, or the too long didn't read of it, is he implemented the various components of the red-pilled praxeology throughout his 20-year long-term relationship / marriage, but in a fairly highly incongruent and non-oak matter that has proved unfulfilling. Ultimately, he went maximum beta to the point of considering chemical castration or self-castration before discovering the red pill, and now he's on a purposeful journey, and his wife's ultimate role in it is unknown. The wait here is me scrolling through everything. That's how long it is. But, I mean, the part that's applicable, we've quoted into it, so I'll read you that part. I'll skip to the end. He has 3 parts of it, or 4 parts of it. The stuff he's owning, diet and exercise. He's down to the same weight he was as a college sophomore. 15% body fat, gym 4 to 6 days a week. He stopped smoking pot because it interfered with his diet. He doesn't watch porn except for like once or twice a month. She's happy. She's not happy with the obsession, and she knows that he's not using it as much. He's got a new wardrobe. He's got new clothes. He stopped complaining and seeking validation from and showing weakness to his wife. He's killed all of his covert contracts. At least he presents outcome independence when he's rejected for sex or companionship. And that's a drastic change. He used to wear it on his shoulder. He's been building abundance and interacting with women at every opportunity. He's generally speaking a charming, charismatic guy. He's resumed control of his finances, so they've made significant progress in that once she stops putting him in debt. He engages socially with everybody else that he can. He's making sure he has a wide network. He's re-engaging with his old hobbies and his old friends, and he's talked with 2 divorce lawyers. The stuff that he's not owning is that he still has a long way to go on understanding shit tests. Next one is Rolo says whoever needs the other the most is at risk for being used. He's talking about the cardinal rule of relationships. He's like, he feels like shit for admitting it, but he's like, I'm pretty sure she needs me or wants me less than I want her. And then during his brief anger phase, he was withdrawing attention in particular around rejection and the 10-second kiss, which isn't important for here. And so he's like, what do I want? He goes, I want it all. I want a wife that's down to fuck whenever and wherever. I want her to be enthusiastic about it. I want random blowjobs. I want a woman that actually wants to be around me. He wants what you would consider genuine desire. When do I want it? He's like, you know what? I'm 5 years out from my youngest starting college, and I have no intent on missing any of my kids' lives between now and then. And then, short of getting what I want or need, divorce is definitely an option with no downside once they move out. I've already seen the divorce lawyers. I'll continue to interview another one, but I want this at the point that as soon as the kid's out of the house, I can drop papers if I think it's important. And so he goes, what's my question? Well, I know I need to increase my value still. I would say from an outsider perspective, we're probably equal now, and I could surpass her with, like, you know, a couple more years, hard work, whatever. Now, from her perspective, it's obviously not high enough, and I'm quite unsure whether I can move very much of her opinion past at this point. So he's like, whatever. So he's like, sorry, my formatting's a disaster, blah, blah, blah. So Jack kind of chimes in, and then I'll chime in afterwards here. So Jack's like, first off, your formatting sucks. They had like a huge fight over just because it was like no paragraph breaks and 20,000 words. It's fucking cancer. But here's the important part. So the quote that he's taken from the entire screed that I didn't bother to read for you guys is, in the summer of 2009, the shit really hit the fan in a good way. I started a keto diet as a New Year's resolution, began lifting again, the sex was picking up. Then in August, the wife and I had the following conversation. The kids were at the mom's during the weekend, and everything was going well between us. The wife is like, oh, we'll move here when the kids are all grown up and blah, 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 and go there and blah, 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 making plans for the future. And him was like, I'm not really sure all that'll happen. Given the way you treat me and the quality of our sex life, I'm probably going to divorce you when the kids get older. I don't know when, but I'm pretty damn sure I can do better. And then she had a lot of silence, followed by rapidly changing the subject to some just, you know, banter about whatever. And he's like, I've been thinking about that for years. I had no intention of saying it at the moment, and I was surprised myself when those actually came out of my mouth. It was ice cold, zero emotion. It was just almost like resigned. So I left 2 days later for a week-long dad plus kids boating trip with my buddy. And then when I had returned, the hamster had replaced my wife. And he's like, Jack is like, look, regardless of your shitty formatting and your 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing, I did try to sort through all of this, and you had a question about frame, and I'm like, your answer is right there, man. This is your fucking frame, you dipshit. In your mind, you were so despondent about your marriage that you started coming to terms with its demise, much like a loved one with a terminal form of cancer. You saw it lying on the hospital bed, veins shoved with ounces of morphine, still writhing in pain and on the razor's edge of death, and you thought, well, this is probably gonna happen. Death is in the future. I should probably come to terms with it. There is your frame. This is a rock fucking solid example of an amazing frame of stoicism that all of us are essentially in pursuit of. This one thing could all end. I don't want it to, but it probably will, and so be it. So what happens if the one thing ends? I'll just be life minus one thing. So it'll still be life, however shortened, a life I can live with. That's your frame, you dipshit. But, and then he's like, and then you had it, and then you lost it. I feel like shit for admitting it, you know, in the part where he's like embarrassed about it. It's like, I can't believe I said that and I didn't say anything. You had some accidental measures, and then you took some deliberate measures. The patient is still alive. The doctors declared remission. After a few years and your loved one sees the doctors again and they have some bad news, the cancer may have returned. So what are you thinking now? How this one thing could end? I don't like it, but I don't want to. It's like, just repeat the same thing you had before. You had your frame. So the red pill gave you a prescriptive solution to your problems. It gave you an objective, deconstructed advice on what to do. You recognize some similarities with your behavior in 2009 to today. But this advice, while more effective, gives you self-awareness. And this self-awareness, paradoxically speaking, prevents you from expressing the same resigned stoicism. So in the same vein of this analogy, a few years ago, my wife had a friend, or an uncle, who had early stage lung cancer, and we were all aboard the thoughts and prayers train. We thought and prayed so hard But if we were honest with ourselves, we knew it was kind of pointless. The person was going to die, and you can't, thoughts and prayers cancer away, right? But we all had sort of this Zen positivity to it, like, And while realizing that, as an 82-year-old smoker, it probably was his time. Now, her uncle lived, and he's still alive. His quality of life is pretty good too, but I think if he ended up back in the hospital, let's say the doctor's like, oh, they actually helped keep doing that, there's going to be no Zen positivity if it comes back. If the uncle's health got worse, my wife would whirl on me and say, why aren't you being more positive? Why aren't you giving more thoughts and prayers? Our self-awareness for what was effective would prevent us from doing the same thing with equal effectiveness. So hopefully you should see the analogy here. And if not, he says, fuck you, because it's still more comprehensive than your poorly formatted wall of text. It's, again, I almost want to think of that Bruce Lee line of a finger pointing towards the moon. Don't stare at the finger or you'll miss all that heavenly glory. It was the case here where he literally had it because he wasn't overthinking things. You're not supposed to overthink this stuff. And Jack continues, I'm sure you've been told many times in your life, you may be overthinking this. And in fact, your weed habit may have been helpful because it prevents you from overthinking things, which means you're actually more mentally functional in some ways. Your hamster calms the fuck down since it's feeling nice and good and you're high, and eating a bag of Doritos, thoughts and prayers come easy. But as you've realized, those depressants make you less mentally functional in other ways. Namely, you making yourself into a lethargic fat ass, which would subjectively help you maintain the frame, but make you less attractive. So it's like lose-lose, right? So you're going to need to find a way to get to that Zen, or I say high state of mind without the substance. I don't know what that is. My gut, based on your mostly incomprehensible text, is something like meditation, Zen the fuck out, whatever. Do what you got to do. So that's your homework. Find something that can replace that stoic state of mind that marijuana accidentally gave you, or as alternative homework, reformat your god-awful excuse for a field report into something that people can read. But to be honest, the meditation's probably easier, so I'd recommend that. But you could click edit and then fix this a couple more times. Fuck, you really did hate this. In fairness, it took like an hour to that. So this is me going like all schoolboy. I loved this one. It was that resigned statement. It's like, it's magic. It's lightning in a bottle. And it was one of the most difficult things. And I still don't think I've done it to my satisfaction when I wrote Praxeology Volume 1 Frame, is I wanted to articulate that single line into there in a way that helped articulate frame for other people. It's about owning the frame you have. And in that case, it was. He had a really struggling, shitty marriage, and he did a lot of things that contributed to it. But then he fixed those things. And the wife was happy. The wife was very happy after all this stuff, but he wasn't, because then she was taking it for granted. And this is where Archwinger had that great essay. Which one was it? It's the Men Aren't Happy. It's where everybody complains, oh, my husband found the red pill and now he's acting like a dick. And it's like, everybody's happy but him, and nobody cared. So in his case, he was that. He realized, like, yeah, she's going to take me for granted. My life is never going to be as optimal as I want it to be. And so he made a decision. I'm going to wait 5 years for my kids to move out of the house. And then this is probably going to end because you're not the woman that I want here. You're not giving me what I want or what I need out of life. And that's fine. And I'm not going to deprive their kids of a stable family. So he's going to sit here for 5 years, build his value, and then he's going to say goodbye. And he's not angry about it. He's not bitter. It's almost just a resigning. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. Like, you're not going to change. And I loved it. It really is like a wonderful way. And it sounds sad, because he's talking about basically leaving his wife once the kids are out. But it's not sad. He's made a decision that his happiness is going to come first. And what makes him happy? Raising good kids into good adults. First off. Second off, his own sexual needs. Bam. And then he made every decision in his life now is geared towards that. So what did he need to do? Stop doing weed, work out, be better, be more attractive, flirt around, be more charming, pre-selection, all the stuff that we've been talking about. Building frame, doing dread, that's going to be in book 3. You'll see that there too. Yeah, and then he realizes that if I expect the wife to come around, it's a covert contract. I can't make her come around. There had been a field report that I probably put on a MidsWatch an episode or 2 before this one, where you can dread your wife into doing things so she thinks she has to, but she doesn't really want to. So yeah, you use dread for the things that she already wants to do, but doesn't want to do them with you. And so he got there. It's like, okay, so now it's at the point where I'm valuable enough that things she wants to do, she'll get there. And she decided she's just not on board with the new me. And I wish you luck, sir. He's not hiding it. He's not angry, not embarrassed. Like I said, he's just resigned. Like, it's just the way it is, man. And if I could give that to you guys, if I could sell that to you guys, I would put it on a $50 Gumroad course and talk to you about alpha males and shit all day, but I just can't. You kind of have to get there yourself. And I think the only tragic thing out of this story is the guy hit it. He had it, and then he lost it again. And that's got to be the worst feeling. So I got nothing to go from there. I have to take a second because I need this for Dread. I have been looking for this for years, and I've been it's sitting in my folder the whole time, and I didn't even know. Fuck me. I put these up. Once I do the recordings, you'll see them listed on there. Okay, one sec here. Dread. Where do I put this? I guess we'll add it to the research part. I'm going to call this one Frame in a Nutshell. And then, is he working on his book right now when he's supposed to be recording a live stream? Yes! Fuck off! I need this. All right, there we go. Take you. Put you. Okay, done. Fuck me, man. You really don't know how long I've been looking for that. I've been looking for that forever. I was like literally going into there and like every keyword combination I could find, searching through it. Every person I could think of, and it ended up, it was in my list of like Jack 10 conversations. Fuck me. Blackstar, Colorado. If Schwarzenegger is the Austrian oak, can we call Ryan the Canadian oak? Well, I hope not. Call me the maple. The long reads are worth it, like your hour-long interpretation of... Was that Michael's story that long? No, this one's not really that interesting. It really is just like a case of... Because, like, if you... Like, I'll show you guys a little bit of it. Yeah, so a lot of it is his life story of when he got married and that kind of shit. And then him, woe is me, about how his marriage has been shitty. And then what he was like before marriage, how he used to fuck a bunch of women and he used to be awesome. And then his wife whittled down his thing. And everything is redacted. Our first child was born in redacted. In redacted, my job required this much travel. It's like a long, meandering story. Long, meandering story. It's not worth it. It really is not worth it. Trust me. How many times they have sex per week. A lot of complaining. Yeah, you don't want this whole story. Anyways, I think we have... Do I want to do... Oh, how much time are we... How long has this been on so far? An hour and a half. I don't know if I have time for the fucking Alpha as Wolf one at this point, because that's going to be a long one in and of itself. You know what? What time is it now? It's almost lunchtime. So I still had 2 or 3 more planned. There was one about Alpha as Wolf, the guy who fucks up his marriage by going Rambo, and it's kind of where Rambo had come from. And then there's this one about guy's wife being a piece of shit. Yeah, you know what? We'll save these for another time. Let's call it. Let's call it. We're calling it. I need the physical copy. Learn, shut the fuck up, your friend. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Post it. Coach was on a live stream yesterday. Yeah. So we'll see. I'll do more of those. Right now, it's mostly... So the big lessons I'm trying to take from this, you know, about the live streams and the gaming stuff is I want to grow that channel. Because ultimately, I want to be out of the red pill space. It's not because I think it's a piece of shit. It's always been a piece of shit. It's just because once I finish the MidsWatches, once I finish the sidebar stuff, which yes, there's still a bunch more to do, that should probably take me another year. And once book 3 is finished, there's not much more I can contribute other than joining the you know, fuck Brittany Venti, like on that stuff. And I'm like, do I really want to become that fucking ass model type person? Probably not. And so ideally I would love if there was a pivot. And I don't want to do politics. I really don't, but you know, whatever. Yeah, more Diablo. Well, Diablo will be on free. That's what my girl said. Just do a part 3, part 2. Got time to join me? I guess. It's going to be in my lunch, so it's going to be a quick one, though. I have to go and eat. Yeah, it'll probably be, yeah, I'm... CSET, you'll probably be right. I'll probably be doing more cooking and stuff like that. Cooking and gaming and stuff and get those going. And then hopefully by that time the pivot goes well. Or who knows, maybe I'll have that, I'm leaving the manosphere and then, you know, hey, look what these bitches did for like the next 2 years, like everybody else does. All right, check my Twitter DMs. Fair enough. I don't see anything in my Twitter DMs. Jack? How to game alphas. Oh, there it is. All right, so I tell you what, we're going to end this one, and then I'll go see Jack for a few minutes, and then I'll go have lunch. How to be a gaming alpha. No, it's not that. Actually, the big thing there is I'm trying to learn about telling better stories. Like with these ones, it's mostly teaching materials, so it follows a system, and I can't really make it into a story without contradicting the information I'm trying to express. But for the gaming stuff, as I get better with telling stories, they tend to be more engaging, and so that's the way to grow from that side. So it's one of those things I want to work on anyway. So yeah, Jack's going to start his thing. I'm going to join him for a little bit. Out of the RP space, when's that video coming up? I'm leaving the manosphere. Well, that's the one thing. I'm not going to tell you guys I'm leaving. I'm just going to go. I always hated that when people tell you like why I'm leaving the manosphere or red pill or anything. It's like, why do you think the audience cares? I'm under no illusions. You guys like to be entertained and informed. I get it. But you're not sitting here going, like, I'm not your friend. I'm your content creator. And there's a very simple relationship there. I entertain and you view. We engage with each other back and forth. And yes, you're friendly and I'm friendly for the most part. Yeah, but fuck. Yeah, the famous cold hands idiot. Well, this actually expands on the cold hands idiot too, Bish. So he did a bunch of other things too, like his wife accuses him of having the same traits as a guy who does domestic violence. And a whole bunch of little things on there, but I kind of want to give it its due diligence. It's probably going to be a longer one. It'll probably be one of those MidsWatch videos that's like an hour fucking long. I hate how everyone in this space is basically an evil woman drama channel, gets old after a while. You'd think so, but there's a reason Rolo's at 200,000 subscribers now and Rich is at 250,000 and I'm not. Even John's at like 100,000. And what did he do? Yeah, if your man's punching you in the mouth, just endure it a bit. Think Nick put it best when it comes to the transactional relationship. I hope so. I listened to a stream Rolo did with Undead Chronic. You should leave for your own safety and sanity. What the fuck? Rolo, what are you doing, my brother? My brother in Christ. Undead Chronic. He's one of those guys with the anime avies and like chick talks, right? God, those guys. And the worst part is, whatever. I'm not even going to start ranting about them. Always focus on giving us access to invaluable info. Well, yeah, it is invaluable. I can't make a penny from it. Anyways, I'm rambling. We're just killing time at this point. I'm going to go join Jack's thing. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'll leave this up probably for like a week. You guys can watch it at your leisure, and then it's going to come down, and it'll just be for Patreons at that point. It's like one of their rewards that they get the archived MidsWatch stuff. And then over the coming weeks, you'll start seeing these released as episodes, okay? So have fun, boys. And, oh, I guess... Here, does Jack have redirects on? Because if he does, I can just take you straight there. Where the fuck is Jack? There it is. All right, so after this, you guys can go straight over to Jack's channel.